welcome back to the KCMA podcast, aka the Foxhole. Listen, this is what I would love for you to do if you could do this for me. Like, subscribe, share this podcast, and don't forget to leave comments below telling us what you like, what you don't like, all those good things, how you love our guests, and where you can get some more information about our guests and the wonderful podcast. So leave those comments. We respond to them. I love them when you leave those comments. Listen, if you want more information about the great things that are happening with all of our military members, their families, and anything connected to the military happening throughout the great bluegrass state of Kentucky, this is what I need you to do. Head on over to our website at kcma.ky.gov. Again, kcma.ky.gov. On there, you'll be given all the latest and greatest updates that you need to do what? Stay connected on all things military, all things Kentucky. You didn't think I forgot, did you? Because I didn't. Listen, this Foxhole podcast is designed to interview key people in the great bluegrass state of Kentucky who are helping military members and their family members do one thing and one thing only. And we're designed to do that, help them find success. We want them to succeed whether they are in the uniform or out of it. No matter what stage, age, or partition of your career that you may be in, we want this podcast to help take all that, boom, to the next level. We are creating content that help our Kentucky military members and their families do amazing things as far as their education, as far as their career, as far as even helping out other military members. That's what it's all about. We're brothers and sisters in arms, and we're just here to help our brothers and sisters in arms. Listen, in this podcast, there's 4 things that I always look forward to telling you about that I need you to do. One is I want you to stay engaged. So I make sure we have great guests every time we do this podcast. 2, I want you to stay motivated. Motivated about your career, motivated about your life, motivated about doing and learning something new. 3, I want you to stay educated. We want to make sure we are doing everything we can to make the greatest difference in your life. And the best way we think that happens is making sure you stay educated. And 4, we want you to be inspired to be your best and to do your best. There's no doubt about it. There's no substitute for it. When I was coaching sports, we had this quote: no one knows if you're giving 100%, but everyone knows when you're not. And we want you to give your 100% in everything you do. Why? Because we're going to do our very best on this Foxhole podcast to make sure what is happening. We keep it all things Kentucky, all things military. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's head on into our Foxhole podcast today. Foxhole Nation, you are in for a treat today. We have scrubbed the state of Kentucky to get this guest. We worked high, we looked low, but we finally found him and we finally got him. Jim Iacocca. Listen, I'm not going to ruin any of the surprises. I'm not even going to give our guests any snippets of what we're talking about today. However, first of all, I just want to know, how are you doing today first?
Hey, Sean, I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me.
Man, that's great. And how's everything where you are, right? I mean, is it snowy? Is it icy? Is it iced over? What happened?
So I think, we're kind of lucky right here where we are. It has been raining all day. In fact, it's been raining since yesterday. But I think we're good on ice for probably another 3 hours. And then I think the world's about to change for us. And I'm glad that I don't have to go anywhere tonight. And that I think tomorrow I'm going to work from home because it seems to be the safest option. And, hey, fingers crossed that the Commonwealth of Kentucky fares this a lot better than anticipated. And
yes.
I won't say that no one lose power because I think that's unrealistic. But I hope the minimum amount of people lose power and that it gets restored quickly.
I hear you, man. Listen, I agree. When I woke up today, I was very glad that it wasn't as bad as it appeared to be, at least on like the iPhones or the Weather Channel or anything like that. So I was really grateful. I was a little nervous though because I slept with all like my windows and blinds closed last night. I was like, I don't even want to see this. I don't even want to know what I got to shovel when I wake up in the morning. Only to wake up, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good today. Maybe, hopefully this is one of those times that my grandmother used to say, the weatherman is never right. So hopefully this is one of those times that the weatherman is not 100% right.
When you think about it, we've been pretty lucky so far this year that when we've had snow, we've had warm weather come right behind it to melt all that
Yes.
snow, that we haven't really had some big problems. But I think we may have a mess until sometime Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. But hopefully it's just not as bad, and it's not like the 6 to 8 or 10 inches or whatever
Oh
that's
my
kind of
goodness.
been,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of been put out there. So hopefully that's done and over with. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get down to the brass tacks of why we're here today. Let's get down and dirty with some good stuff. So, Jim, what makes Kentucky a great state for military families?
Yeah. So, my wife and I and our daughter, who was moving around with us when we were military, we've got to live in a lot of great places.
Mhm.
But when it came time to retire, we decided to retire here for a couple reasons. One, this is really a great patriotic and supportive community,
Mhm.
and a lot of people say it, but I really think in Kentucky, and to me, particularly around Fort Knox, you won't find a more patriotic and supportive community. There are plenty of activities to do here. There's no shortage of food activities. You're not very far from the mountains.
Right.
There's some great activities around the community. It's a great place to hunt and fish,
Mhm.
and a lot of state parks. So it's really just a great place, and it is a great central location. You're not far from anything that
No.
you want to take off to do. It's all close by.
Jim, that is one of the things I was really shocked of. I guess I never really paid attention to it, but you're right. Um, if you're a Bengals fan, you're an hour and some change from Cincinnati, right? Or a
Yeah,
Reds fan. If you're a Colts fan or, a Pacer fan, you want that pro sports, you're like an hour and what? Hour and 30 minutes, hour and 40 minutes from Indianapolis.
sure. Not
You're
far from
about to
Nashville.
Yeah, about the same distance from Nashville.
Yeah.
If you want to really go all the way into the deep South, I have family in Alabama, and from Louisville, I can get there in like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, it's
So
wonderful.
yeah, it's you. I never thought of that till you just mentioned it. It is pretty centrally located to get where
But
you want to go.
yeah, and Sean, just the central Kentucky is such a great place as well. When you think about it, I think it was a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago that they released the top 100 restaurants in the United States, and three of them are in Louisville. So I mean that's pretty impressive for our Commonwealth of Kentucky.
That is amazing. That's amazing. So you mentioned a little bit about your daughter, your wife. You moved around a little bit, your military family. So tell Foxhole Nation a little bit about your story. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So well, and thanks. I will tell you that I've really been blessed beyond anything that I deserve.
Mhm.
I don't want to go way back too far, but I met my wife at the basic course. We went to Fort Benjamin Harris in Indianapolis. We were both second lieutenants. That's where we met. And, we've been married for over 32 years now. And so, you know, had it not been for the Army, the two of us would not have met. And I can't imagine life without her. We have a beautiful, magnificent 28-year-old daughter who lives way too far away in Portland, Oregon. But that's really awesome right there from the family aspect.
Yeah.
From a career aspect, I've really been blessed. I've served in a lot of great organizations and units, 2 tours with the 82nd, a couple tours of special operations assignments, Human Resources Command, both here in Kentucky and when they were in Virginia,
Mhm.
and a tour in the Pentagon. So I've really had a blessed career of phenomenal assignments. I've worked with some wonderful people, and just the fact again, married for over 32 years. To my wife, who I met at the basic course. That again, if not for the Army, we wouldn't have met.
And so the Army again creates another great love story. I tell you, for those out, I don't know what the Marine Corps is doing. I don't know what the Air Force is doing. I don't even know what Space Force is doing or the Navy, but I know the Army is the best. They have the best stories. This right here, true love story. 32 years. You can't beat that.
Well, thank
And
you.
it started at Fort Ben Harrison, which is now just pretty much just DFAS right now. I don't know if you've been up there recently.
So yeah, so I have. So what's really amazing is I don't know how familiar you are with it, but Lawton Loop, those big beautiful houses on Lawton Loop. I mean,
Yeah.
People have bought those as homes. Some folks
Yep.
have bought those as businesses, and just really great places. And it's really nice to see that a lot of those old buildings are still there. And
Oh yeah.
you don't get the flavor of the installation anymore. But
No.
if you were there when it was Fort Ben Harrison, you still recognize it, and you recognize some of the buildings. And of course, DFAS is still that gigantic monster that's right there.
Well, I was a finance soldier, so
Okay.
DFAS was my home away from home, and I remember doing enough PT tests there before it kind of all got renovated with the new houses and the
Yeah.
condos and apartment buildings. I remember when the PX was on the back side, and it was right across the street from the chapel, which is where the track was that you had to do your PT test from.
Oh my goodness.
The YMCA that was on post, which became the community YMCA once it wasn't Fort Ben Harrison.
Yeah.
That is where we always did formation. So the golf course is still phenomenal. Our golf game could improve, but nevertheless,
Yeah. Never picked it up.
really,
Never picked it up.
Fort Ben has probably I think it's probably definitely one of the best golf courses on any military installation I've ever been on. If just to walk it, right? It's just it's just beautiful. The greens are just lovely.
Sure. We could do PT on the course in the mornings before they started. So we did a little bit of that. But other than that, not too much other activity for me on the golf course anyway.
I understand it's not for everybody. It's like I've never had caviar, but they tell me it's an acquired taste. I think golf is the same way. It's one of the things either you do it or you don't, and if you don't, it's no, you're not missing anything. Trust me, you're not missing anything by not doing it.
Thank
But
you.
let me ask you this, Jim. Let me ask you this. I know you are with Grow Knox. You do a lot with Grow Knox. You have a very key role and critical role there. Could you tell us a little bit about what Grow Knox is and your role at Grow Knox?
Sure. Grow Knox is our website. The organization is called the Knox Regional Development Alliance,
Mhm.
and it was born out of the core committee, which is a decades old organization that really understood the importance of Fort Knox to the community. And a few years ago, Bill Barron, who is Major General retired Bill Barron, who is the executive director of the core committee, realized that, hey, dollars are getting tight. Defense communities are getting organized, so the community needed a full-time effort. So they
Mhm.
created the Knox Regional Development Alliance. And I was very fortunate that it lined up that when I retired, they were looking for a president and CEO. They hired me, so I'm the first full-time president and CEO of the Knox Regional Development Alliance. Have been doing it for 4 years. I've got a great partner, Beth Avey, who
Mhm.
was also in the military. She got out as a major and started a business in the community, and decided that she wanted to do something different. So she sold her business and came to work for KRDA. So we really focus every day. Our efforts are focused on Fort Knox and the community. And the Knox Regional Development Alliance has four stated goals. One is
Mhm.
to protect existing missions at Fort Knox and advocate for new missions that make sense for Fort Knox. Um, Create opportunities for public-private and public-public partnerships, increase defense spending in the region and contractor support. And then the fourth one is to create opportunities for soldiers and families and to make sure that the community is really doing everything it can to support soldiers and families coming to Knox or transitioning out of Knox. And so, that's really what the Knox Regional Development Alliance does.
And so in your day-to-day role, are when you're meeting with military families and military members or members of the community, what are some of the key things that you hear consistently on a consistent basis that maybe you wish they had or they wish they, I guess, didn't have in some instances? It could be just what we don't want, but what are some of those things that are happening at the, was it KDRI? I want to make sure I get those initials right.
KRDA.
KRDA, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so KRDA, Knox Regional Development Alliance, KRDA. So really, we spend a lot of time really working with defense contractors who are interested in
Mhm.
doing business in the region. We also work with some great partners like USA Cares and some others to help transitioning service members find the best opportunities in the community. Working with the Lincoln Trail Area Development District and the Kentucky Career Center and our friends at Human Resources Command on Fort Knox, we created a program called the Spouse Employment Initiative, where
Mhm.
spouses can reach out to the community before they even get here to find
wow.
employment opportunities that they may be interested in. And we have community connectors that they can ask for, and those community connectors can help take them to chamber meetings or small business association meetings to help get them integrated in the community. So that's what we spend a lot of our time on, is really supporting soldiers as they come here, supporting soldiers as they transition, and of course a lot of support to defense contractors as they want to do business on Fort Knox. We connect them where we can. Right now, one of the big things, we're working with Fort Knox, the Elizabethtown Industrial Foundation and Ford, to help them acquire that veteran talent and transitioning soldier and spouse talent as Ford begins to stand up that great plant. But one thing I think I want to talk about that a lot of people don't know, and if you don't mind me taking this platform,
hey, that's what it's here for.
That Fort Knox is really a gem of military installations, and a lot of people don't realize that. Sean, you've been to a bunch of places. I've been to a bunch of different places, but I will tell you that Fort Knox is always very well maintained and is really one of the best looking installations I've ever been to. And, the people that grew up here and they only know Fort Knox, they think that every military installation looks like that. And, I've got 10 and a half years on Fort Bragg. I love Fort Bragg, North Carolina. But, when you drive on to Fort Bragg, I mean, you get a special feeling, but you look around, it's not nearly as well maintained as Fort Knox is. They really do a lot of work there to keep the installation, the post, as pretty as they do. And, the other thing is Fort Knox is a strategically important post to the Army. The Army's number one priority is people. Without Fort Knox, you don't have people. The United States Army Recruiting Command is there. Worldwide responsibility to bring talented men and women into the Army. Without Recruiting Command, you don't have the enlisted force. Cadet Command, which trains 75% of the officer corps for the Army. Without Cadet Command, you don't have the leaders. And then Human Resources Command, that manages people from cradle to grave while they're in the Army. That without them, you don't have the talent management. So those three commands really make the people of the Army. So it's really a strategically important installation from that aspect. Not to mention the other commands that are there. 5th Corps Headquarters. It's one of 4 operational corps headquarters in the Army is right here. And of course, they have responsibility for the European Theater of Operation for Army forces there. First Army Division East, one of only 2 divisions like it in the Army, responsible for certifying and training Guard and Reserve units east of the Mississippi. You have the 1st Theater Sustainment Command, the logistics arm of all forces in the Middle East area of responsibility. Then you've got the 84th Training Division. You have Army Reserve Aviation Command and the 100th Division, which are all just great organizations on Fort Knox. Really a strategically important post from many levels.
Oh, no doubt. There is no doubt. And the way that you rattled that off the top of your head was amazing. I wish I had an award I could give it to you for that.
Well, I'm hoping I didn't forget anybody as I'm thinking about all this. Be terrible if I did.
Yeah, but you mentioned something earlier. You said that the Knox Regional Development Alliance. I'm gonna get it. I've been saying it all day and I'm still messing it up. The KDRA. They were kind of started because funding, they felt like, you said it was kind of created because they felt like funding was kind of getting low. But now knowing that the situation, I don't want to say the situation, the climate and the culture of where we are now because of COVID and things being just kind of everything having to pivot. Do you find yourself sometimes going back to that original purpose, right? Like this is kind of where we were because we kind of had to develop, we were kind of developed based because we realized something like this, not this as far as COVID, but from a financial situation, this could occur or has been occurring.
Yeah. So really the challenge of why it was created was to create a full-time organization that would compete for defense dollars. Now, not directly compete for defense dollars, but almost every installation, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever, has some type of defense community organization like KRDA outside the gate. And you know, those that are full time, like KRDA is now, works a lot with the Association of Defense Communities, works a lot with the institution, works a lot with the community, talks with the Army. In our case, we talk with the Army pretty regularly. We talk with our congressional delegation. It's those efforts that we're looking at to make sure that the Knox region, the greater Fort Knox region stays top of mind to military and political leaders. That's really what our effort is, to make sure that they recognize the capacity and capability that is at Fort Knox all the time. I mean, you can look at a spreadsheet. The Army has that data, but from your time in the military, that you're involved in a close knife fight every day, that you're not thinking about some of these things. And that's where we come in for at least the greater Knox region, is to let them know that, you have this capability and capacity here at Fort Knox.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really appreciate that. I spent a little time at Fort Knox, not a bunch. It wasn't at the time when I was in. Fort Knox was kind of handling its own as far as finance was concerned. They're actually at that time one of the more stellar operations, because you had so many commands, and they were doing so great that there wasn't a lot that we actually had to do. I was put on a Tiger team to come down there to oversee a mission for like 2 weeks, and it ended up being like 3 days. And we're like, yep, they've checked all the boxes. We're out of here. And reported that great information back to DFAS. And the time I was down there, it was amazing. It was, but now being so close to Louisville, I've found myself just, around the area more and more, just seeing how it's changed, and which is a great thing as well. I'm sure that's a huge credit to KRDA as well. But speaking of that, let me ask this question. Why do you think it's important for communities inside the gate and outside the gate to understand why the regional development organization is important to this, to the greater Fort Knox area?
Well, I think it's important for folks to understand that, the support that the communities provide to the installations matter, and that the quality of the communities matter. When the Department of Defense decides to place a new mission someplace, they look at what amenities are off the installation for soldiers and their families. And that's what's, when you come to Central Kentucky, you see everything that's happening and all the great things that are there. Could it be better? Sure. And the communities are working on that. We're helping the communities work on that. But that's one of the things that why that matters, is when they're looking at basing new missions someplace, and not that there's new missions just in the queue waiting, but when they do pop up, they're going to look at, where's the capacity, where's the capability, and what's the military value outside the installation.
That's amazing. And so from a value standpoint, would you know, and maybe this is a far stretch, would you know what the kind of the value proposition of that Central Kentucky, what the Central Kentucky proposed value is at this point?
Well, yeah, so I can't speak to, where it would be on the scale, but I can tell you that what some of the things they look at is the quality and affordability of housing.
Gotcha.
And the quality and affordability of housing in Central Kentucky is good, was better. Right now with the economy, the is with all the growth that's around the greater Fort Knox region right now, housing premium, and so that's the challenge right now. I think that's a temporary condition, but certainly the cost of there. That's other things that they look at. The reciprocal licensing for military spouses, and so Kentucky and KCMA and the Commonwealth have really done a wonderful job of ensuring that they're leading the way. And a lot of states are starting to catch up, but Kentucky was one of a handful that a couple of years ago was the only one that was really working on reciprocal licensing for military spouses as they came into the state. So those are some of the things that they really look at, the housing, the education, and the licensing and military spouse employment.
One thing we talk about through the KCMA podcast, and even when we're talking through KDVA and any of our other partners that we've had out there, even education channels, is about getting getting those spouses employed. Recently, we just did an interview with the C4 project or C4 program at the University of Louisville, letting people know that, hey, whether you're active duty or a reservist or even the spouse, right? This is a good program if you want to get that cybersecurity, that tech certification to get good jobs or a better job, or whatever, whatnot. One thing I've placed a not a premium, but just a huge emphasis on is saying, how do we bring awareness to the spouses of the military? I think sometimes it's a forgotten, or they're a forgotten piece of the puzzle, but they're a very critical and integral piece of the puzzle, because we both know that if your family's not right, it's going to be hard for you to complete your mission, no matter
Right.
what it is. And so if you know that you're, like you said, if you're in a situation where like it's hard for your spouse to find a job, get a job, keep a job, maintain a job, or there are no jobs around for them to have, it just creates for a very tough experience, and it creates for a very not a very happy a story, right? Because then your sole focus then becomes, how fast can I get out of here,
Right.
right? And how quick can this 3-year tour go by, or whatever the case may be. So it's always nice to hear that there are organizations that are looking at that, they're examining that. No, you're not necessarily the answer to that problem, but the fact that it's on your radar, it's an amazing thing. And I think that the men and women, the servicemen and women, or no matter what their branch that they find themselves at Fort Knox, are grateful that things like that are occurring, and that there are people out there that are watching their six, so to speak. So kudos to your organization. That's great, and I'm glad to hear that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
So let me ask you this: what are some of the projects or programs out there connected to your organization? I said Grow Knox, but I know that's just a website, that are helping military families, military members and their families. We talked a little bit about it, but are there any special projects or programs that we could be on the lookout for, that you need our support from, that you need us to get behind and rally behind and show support for?
Well, thanks. And I think we already talked about the spouse employment initiative that you already alluded to, and that's an important one. And what we're doing with transitioning soldiers now, I think another thing that folks could be aware of is that there's a website out there that's called greaterfortknox.com, and that really explains a lot of the region and things that are happening with the region. That's worthwhile. But really, I think the partnerships that we have around the Commonwealth, KCMA, the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs, is a wonderful partner with not only just the Knox Regional Development Alliance, but Campbell Strong and the other organizations around the around the Commonwealth. USA Cares is a phenomenal partner when it comes to soldier transition, with their internship programs and what they do to help transitioning soldiers find meaningful work. The VA here in Louisville is phenomenal. You hear bad stories about the VA. There's no bad stories about this VA. They're really good, and they are focused on taking care of veterans and their families. The Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs is another great organization. There's an organization called the Kentucky Veterans Business Alliance, which helps entrepreneurs, as they leave the Army. So it's the partnerships that are a huge part. And let's not forget what the Army has on the installation in family support programs and transition assistance programs to help soldiers and families while they're on active duty and as they transition. So those are really some of the things that it's nice to be aware of across the Commonwealth and around the military installations, are all those organizations that are there to support.
Man, that's great. Like you said, I think the partnerships are critical. I think it just proves that no one or no organization or no one group can do it all by themselves. It requires a collective effort, and it does bring that sense of that camaraderie all the way back again, right? It's something that we spend a lot of time learning and thinking, like, why are they making us do all this teamwork and camaraderie stuff and esprit de corps? I got tired of hearing that. But then when you really when I think I value it so much more outside of the military than I did inside of the military. I think it became like rhetoric while I was in, but then when you get out, you really understand that you really do need partnerships. You really do need friendships. You really do need, battle buddies that can pull strings and can help you out, or organizations. And it all works the same, because we're all fighting the same fight. We're all trying to do the best we can for our servicemen and women and their families, whether they're in or transitioning out or whatever the case may be. So I think it's amazing. So, Jim, here we go.
Yeah,
right?
I
I ask all my guests, we have what we call the sniper round. So the sniper round is 5 questions that I ask, just rapid fire. First answer, first thing, first thought that comes to your mind. It's a little fun we like to have around here just to keep things light and lovely and keep it moving, and also just to end on a positive note. So, Jim, are you ready for sniper round?
I am, but there's no easy answers.
I love it. All right, here we go. First question. What was your favorite duty station?
I'll go back to what I said early on, that I've been very blessed and I have really had some great assignments. And depending on what aspect of the station you want to talk about, Fort Bragg was extremely rewarding. Savannah, Georgia was extremely rewarding, and Fort Knox was extremely rewarding. So there's a lot of other great places in between there. But if you pinned me to the wall and said, which of those three is the best, I don't know that I could give you an answer. If you threatened to cut off a finger, I'd probably have to say Fort Bragg. But I want to note that we retired here in Kentucky. We sold our property in North Carolina and retired here in Kentucky.
Great answer. I love it. Here we go. Second question. What is or are some of your favorite military memories?
So, I'd be in a lot of trouble with my wife if I didn't say the basic course where my wife and I met. And so, that's a big one. But again, just have been so many wonderful assignments. But I thought about this before the show. I really love battalion command at the 82nd. And I would tell you that my best memories were there at the 82nd.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it. Okay, here we go. This is not a good one, but it is a good one. What was your favorite military training exercise or school?
I would tell you that I think, so I'll tell you that I think from a training exercise, any airborne operation was the best. Anytime you're out there with paratroopers and you're getting to jump out of planes with paratroopers, that's a great training event. And I think from a school perspective, I was very fortunate to be able to attend Capstone and got to travel all over the country, and then did a tour through Africa and Europe as part of that Capstone training. That was really a phenomenal training exercise in school.
Amazing. Love it. All right. Now, this one is the stumper. It gets everybody. And there may not even be an answer, just FYI. But if you could do your military career all over again, what would you do differently?
So the quick answer would be nothing. Because, again, very blessed. However, on self-reflection, I think that there were times in my career where I was harder than I needed to be. And I think as I became more senior, that, you don't need to be hard to get things done. Right. And so it's a lesson I teach younger leaders now that, hey, some of the training you don't get to, you're a whole lot senior. It'd be nice to have some of that a little bit more junior. I think if I had to do it all over again, there was times in my life where I probably would have taken a more gentle approach.
Gotcha. Definitely. Love it. Love it. That's great. That's great. That's great advice for all those out there who are listening. Foxhole Nation, there you go. Golden nugget, right? So before we let you get out of here, there's 2 more things we definitely want to cover. And I finally got it right. It's KDRA. Finally got it right. It just took, 30 minutes, but I'm getting there. I'm a slow learner. But outside of KDRA, what organization would you like to give a highlight or a shout out to today?
So I think, the one I'd really like to give a shout out to is USA Cares, not only for what they do here in the greater Fort Knox region with helping transition soldiers find meaningful work, but that USA Cares has that mission of post 9/11 vets who find themselves in some type of hardship nationwide. The USA Cares program is there to help them out. So I'd like to give them a shout out, based right here in central Kentucky with a nationwide impact and positive impact to our veterans.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Stamp of approval, USA Cares. If Jim aka Mr. Iacocca, has given you a shout out. You are now on the clock, and we are coming after you. So you be on the lookout for USA Cares on the KCMA podcast. Okay, Jim, before we get out of here today, listen, our listeners are listening from pretty much all over the state of Kentucky. We are really focused, as you see on our moniker below. I don't know if you see on the screen right there. It says we're focused on being all things military, all things Kentucky. We started off understanding why Kentucky was a great spot, why it's a great place for military families to come, reside, stay, live, retire. We know all that. And all our military listeners out there, all our education people out there, all our veterans out there, we have a growing listening audience. I'm surprised at how fast we're growing. It's actually beating it's beating all of our statistics and what our thoughts were. But knowing that and knowing what you do at KDRA, what do you hope our listeners get out of our podcast today, out of this conversation?
So, like you said, I think a lot of folks recognize this, but that Kentucky is a special place. It really is a great place for military families to call home. That there are a lot of resources within this Commonwealth to help soldiers and their families, and that if there's a challenge, you can reach out to one of those organizations, and there's help to be had if you find yourself in a tough spot. And there's plenty of opportunity if you're not in a tough spot to give back. And the thing that if I didn't plug Fort Knox, I wouldn't be doing my job. That Fort Knox really is a special place. A lot of great installations in the Army, a lot of great posts, but Fort Knox really has a special place in our heart, and I think really a special place in the Army's quiver of tools that they can use for many things.
I love it. So for all our listeners out there, if you get a little downtime, especially our veterans, go visit the post, go visit Fort Knox, check it out, see what they're doing. Look at how beautiful the post really is. Take it all in. It is a gem. It's hidden, and I don't want to. I get. Is it the mountains of Kentucky? It's not really the mountains of Kentucky, but it's kind of a secret little place that's tucked away. And Fort Knox is a great place. It's a great installation. There's great people there, and in my opinion, there's some great food there too.
There is.
I know that I'm not sure. You mentioned the restaurants. I don't think any of them were necessarily in that area, but I do know there's some good eating in the Fort Knox area. There's no doubt in my mind. So, Mr. Iacocca, I thank you and appreciate you for coming on and being on the podcast today, taking time out of your immensely busy schedule. However, the snow is falling. The ice is coming. So obviously we weren't as busy as we thought we were probably going to be today. But I thank you for taking time out of your day today, being on the KCMA podcast. I appreciate you, everything you're doing. If there's anything we can ever do to support anything that is happening in that area, let us know and we'll be there. If you ever need to get on the podcast again to put a message out, let me know. Reach out to me. And thank you. Take care. Stay safe. Have a great day and keep making Fort Knox a great place to be.